What is up? It's Susie from HeyGrillHey.com, and today I have a riddle. What do a chuck roast, a bottle of fish and veggie rub, and an entire jar of pickles have in common? Nothing yet. But at the end of this, it's gonna make an absolutely ridiculously delicious smoked dill pickle pot roast. You heard me right. I know it's crazy, but it's absolutely delicious. You're gonna love it. So let's do it. Have you heard about the Grill Squad? It's my online barbecue community. I call it my barbecue family, and I want you to be a part of it. Head to thegrillsquad.com to learn more. I would love to see you in there, and on to the recipe. Now, this slightly unusual recipe combo was born from a number of things. First, we tried fish and veggie on a steak, and it was delicious, so we wanted more beef with fish and veggie. This has flavors of dill, kind of a ranchy vibe, and I have an amazing recipe for a Mississippi style pot roast with a packet of ranch seasoning and a jar of pepperoncinis. So we thought, man, what if we did that with dill pickles and made a dill pickle pot roast? The dill and the fish and veggie works beautifully, and everything tastes so yummy together. It's a little bit salty, a little bit briny, and my mouth is watering thinking about the finished product. We just made it recently and it was so good. So let's get into the actual prep part for this pot roast. Prep part for the pot roast. All right, I've got a 3-pound well-marbled chuck roast here. I'm gonna slather that on both sides with some spicy brown mustard. This makes a lot of sense because you want the zippiness in there. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with German food, but they have this like rolled braised steak situation called a rouladen that has mustard and onions and dill pickles in it, and it's so good. So we're mimicking some of those flavors in our pot roast.
Jawohl!
Jawohl! Then once you slather with your spicy brown mustard, we're gonna season liberally with the fish and veggie rub. You can grab a bottle of this at HeyGrillHey.com and support all the stuff that we do here to make recipes for you guys, or because I love you, I have the recipe on my website as well, so you can make it at home. This beefy beauty is going onto our smoker at 275 degrees. I like a slightly higher temperature here. It's gonna help break down this chuck roast. I wanna cook this all in one day, and so we're putting that directly on the grates. It'll probably smoke for between 4 and 6 hours, depending on the size of your roast. We're looking for a target temperature between 165 and 175 before we hit the next braising step. As far as wood, you can use your favorite hardwood. You can go as bold as you like with something like mesquite or hickory or oak if you like a really strong smoke flavor. You could back it off with something lighter, pecan, alder, if you want a more mild smoke flavor. We're about 2.5-ish hours in on our dill pickle pot roast. So let's take a quick temperature check, and I feel like we're ready to move on to the braising. Step 2. Whoop. All right, I'm happy with this guy, clocking between 165 and 175 when I probed in multiple areas. This is gonna go into a 12-inch cast iron pan. Now don't use your best, most well-seasoned cast iron pan, because we're gonna be putting acid in here. If you are concerned, you could use a glass pan or a disposable aluminum pan. I just like the cast iron. To our pan, we're going to add an entire jar of pickles. Now, one tip here is to pull your pickles out of the fridge several hours, maybe at the beginning of this process, before you pour them in, so you're not putting 34-degree pickle juice on your hot pot roast and completely stalling out the cooking process.
Freaking kids. Make sure your kids don't eat any of the pickles.
Yeah, they kept trying to sneak the pickles, stinkers. We're also gonna put in an entire stick of butter. I like to cut it into tablespoon inch thick, tablespoon, teaspoon. Words, so hard. Cut the butter up, put it in the pan. optional step for you, one that we like to do. Get about 2 to 3 pounds of your favorite potato. You can either use the tiny ones that are little itty bitties, or you can take the Yukon Golds like I have and cut them into cubes and distribute them in your roast. They'll soak up all of that salty, buttery brine and taste super delish. I'm happy with the potatoes. In the pot, we're gonna hit it with another layer of the fish and veggie seasoning. This will tie all of those dilly flavors together, but also help season our potatoes. Okay, pop your lid on, or if you're using an aluminum pan or a glass pan, cover tightly with foil, back on your smoker, 270 degrees, and keep an eye on this bad boy. It can take anywhere from 1 to 3 hours. Every time I've done it, it's been closer to 2.5, 3. But to avoid overcooking, I start checking at that 1 hour mark just to make sure we're moving in the right direction. You want it to feel really soft, and you want to be able to take a fork and start to shred it. And generally, when cooking at 275, that starts to happen in a chuck roast between 208-ish to 210-ish degrees. So that's the target temperature we're looking for. But again, like I said, the most important thing is the texture. We want it to be nice and fall apart and shreddy delicious. All right, our pot roast has been braising for about 2.5 hours now. I just took the temperature. We're right at about 208, 209. Some spots are hitting 210, but most importantly, that texture's there. My thermometer's sliding in and out really easily. So it's time to pull our pot roast out, and then we can try some. Smells so good. So here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna transfer my pot roast to a rimmed serving platter. That's where I'm gonna shred all of the meat, save all of the drippy juices, wait for the truck to go by, and then we'll serve it with the pickles and the potatoes on the side so you can eat it all together and it will look beautiful. Pickle right here in the front. All right, this is beautiful. I don't want this buttery, dilly, garlicky, beefy jus to go to waste. So I'm just drizzling it over the top, but you can serve it alongside as well. I am like a faucet inside of my mouth. The way that this smells, the way that this looks, it feels like old school comfort food. And I know the first thought of like dill pickles and pot roast, but I mean, listen, if you use good dill pickles, they're garlicky, they're salty. That tangy vinegar is the perfect foil to something rich and fatty like a beef chuck roast. You add in those potatoes with the butter and everything gets all soaked up and yummy and delicious all together. Oh! I mean, that looks perfect to me. Oh my gosh. That beef is so tender. You get just the right amount of smoke without it tasting overly barbecued like a brisket or something that is, you know, that classic barbecue flavor. But the smoke just adds a layer of interesting and awesome. The pickles are tangy and still crunchy. The potatoes are so creamy. It is everything in a Sunday supper, and I just feel like you guys are gonna love this one. So snag the recipe from my website, heygrillhey.com, or you can find it on the Hey Grill Hey app. We'll catch you guys next time.